Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the last but certainly not least final installment of DCA's Roadshow series. And we could not think of a better place to end this first of its kind effort than at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Can we just give Fairleigh Dickinson a round of applause for hosting us, please? Just an incredible space. I just want to acknowledge that. Even when I was driving in with Commissioner, it felt like a bit of a blast from the past. You step back in time, just the green rolling hills. So really, really appreciate FDU community for hosting us and just being incredible partners as we work through this series. So again, sincere welcome to all of you. I want to make sure to just acknowledge that the whole point and goal of this series was to really increase our visibility and what we do, but more significantly, to make sure that we were showing up in the communities that we serve. And in this moment, and I think before we get started, I'd be remiss if I really didn't acknowledge some of the trailblazing that got us to this place. And for those of you that may not be aware, but we've come about a little past the 1-year mark of the passing of the late Lieutenant Governor Sheila Y. Oliver. She was not just the Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, the second one in its history, but also she was the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs. And she led what she spoke. We really, myself and Commissioner, had the privilege to work under her leadership with our team. And she was someone that believed in public service to its core. And in more significantly, not just serving the public, but in meeting people where they are, in showing up in spaces, talking with community partners, and figuring out how we are there to serve our residents. So I wanted to just take a moment to honor that legacy, honor just the intellect, the intent, the passion, and the dedication that she gave to the state. And if everyone could just join me in just a moment of silence to honor her. Thank you so much. So before we get into the heart of the program, which is one of our favorite subjects, shared services, I wanted to make sure that we just acknowledge and thanked all of our partners, right? Because this roadshow focuses on special services, we want to make sure that we're offering a program to you today that talks about the principles and the programs surrounding that concept, right? And really that you all know that this comes back to the community leadership, the collaboration, and a lot of brains in the room that are trying to work through and figure out how we're streamlining and really making New Jersey one of the critical and best places to live in the state. Being here, I think, in this exquisite space, in this mansion, right, it reminds me a bit that we have to make sure that we're showing up, right? DCA as a whole, our state partners. And some of this is making sure that folks understand the wide breadth of what we cover. So we're going to give a focus point on shared services today, but Commissioner Suárez is going to come up in a little bit and really give you all a sense of what the department does. I think a lot of what happens sometimes too is that folks hear community affairs and it's a mouthful. They don't really know what that means. We have the gift and privilege that when the legislature may hear something in the space of community, they say community and affairs, and we get it. What it's given us is the opportunity to really blend and level and be collaborative across all of the different disciplines and portfolios that we handle, and making sure that our work is making sense at not just the state level, but all the way down to the localities. Again, the heart of where the shared services work can really be impactful. So we want to make sure before we kind of get into the soup and nuts of shared services, the commissioner is going to give you a bit of an overview of the breadth of what we do. We will have a presentation a little bit about our divisions and really about what our goals are going to be in the leadership under Commissioner Stead and really keeping up the momentum of what our department has been trying to do in community spaces. We also are making sure too that you're not just hearing from the leadership, but that you're hearing from our subject matter experts, the folks that really do this work every day, so that you can hear what they do and also be able to ask those questions and get information to support your constituencies. So we have one of our folks, Richardella, who's our DCA Bureau Chief for the Division of Local Government Services. He is going to detail the full gamut of the shared services program, initiative, and experience that DCA provides. And then he will also be making sure to introduce two critical parts of this shared services work, and that is our shared services Czars and leaders Jordan Glatt and Nicolas Platt. So really excited to have them in this space today as well. And I want to make sure too that we acknowledge in this space some of our leadership, right? Our local leadership, our legislative leadership that have not just supported the Fairleigh Dickinson University community, but also DCA and the state as a whole. So I just want to make sure to, again, thank our czars, Jordan Glatt and Nicolas Platt, Councilwoman Frederick Charnett of Irvington, Councilman Josh Kalish, Councilwoman Melissa Senator, both from the Township of Jefferson, as well as Council President Nancy Verga from Morris Plains. And then also to the mayors that are in attendance, thank you. We wanted to make sure that this was something that was another resource for you, for your leadership, and for the work that you're doing for your residents. So I just want to make sure to acknowledge if the mayors that are from some of the towns, if you can kind of just stand up, I just want to give a round of applause for you all, please. Truly, thank you. Your presence is appreciated here today. I'd also want to give a special shout out and thanks to Fairleigh Dickinson University President Michael Alvatroni, as well as his executive assistant, Amy Demaris Hopka, who were so fantastic and supportive of this effort. When we were trying to reach out and find places to host, and we were intentional, right? We've hit the top of our state, but we've been to Atlantic City, to Camden, to Plainfield, really trying to make sure that we were showing our support, not just in thought, but regionally and geographically. And being able to have an incredible space like this, I really want to acknowledge FTU and thank you all for this support. Moving along, I'm going to do a brief introduction of our commissioner. I want to be mindful of time. This is her least favorite part, and I always don't listen to her and I say a little bit more because it bears repeating. She is, I think, amongst good company of folks that are in the trenches, that do the work every day, that aren't afraid of getting their hands dirty and really learning and understanding and trying to make growth. So a couple bit of background for those that may not know. So Commissioner Suárez was appointed to the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs on May 20th, 2024, so just this year, making her the first Hispanic commissioner to lead the DCA. She is committed to the department's ongoing mission to provide residents, local governments, businesses, and community development organizations with financial support, administrative guidance, technical assistance, and overall just to the bat support round 360 for the better of quality of life for New Jersey residents. As the commissioner of one of the state's largest departments, Commissioner Suárez maintains an operating budget of $1.485 billion and has the responsibility of administration of various federal funds, notwithstanding the disaster relief grant funding provided through Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program, the American Rescue Plan, as well as the CARES Act. She oversees more than 1,000 employees and serves for various divisions, including local government services, where she is still currently director, housing and community resources, codes and standards, fire safety, disaster recovery and mitigation, offices of information privacy, local planning services, just to name a few. She also has oversight of various affiliate agencies that are under this umbrella, including the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority, the Urban Enterprise Zone Authority, the New Jersey Historic Trust, and the Government Records Council. As I mentioned before, she still continues to serve as the Director of Division of Local Government Services. This is a position that she's held since 2021. In this role, she and her incredible team provide governments with technical and financial assistance in several areas. And I will name a few, but it is not exclusive. That is shared services, the reason we're here today, purchasing, management issues, procurement, anything you can think of it really does fall under LGS. Commissioner Suárez also oversees the review and approval of municipal, county, and fire district budgets, works to uphold the financial integrity of local government units, and guides the conduct of local government officials. She also serves as the Director of Local Government Services in the role of Chair for the state's Local Finance Board, a position she has held since January 2021. She is a New Jersey native who earned her Juris Doctor from Rutgers School of Law in Camden and her bachelor's degree in Communications, Legal Institutions, Economics, and Government from American University in Washington, D.C. She is also a member of the New Jersey and New York Bar Associations and a proud member of the Hispanic Bar Association of New Jersey. It's my privilege and honor to introduce Commissioner Suárez. Commissioner.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm never told that I'm quiet, but everybody can hear me okay? All right. So I am from New Jersey, so I talk pretty fast. I also think that's just because I grew up in a large family, and if I didn't speak quickly, somebody was definitely going to interject over me at the dinner table, so I wanted to always get my thoughts out really quickly before I gave them that opportunity. So Kaya, thank you for the introduction. As she mentioned, that's my least favorite part of anything. I want our work to really demonstrate to you why we are in the positions that we are and how we're going to assist you in moving things forward. So as Kaya mentioned, when the legislature isn't entirely sure where to stick something, there's always some sort of community tie, and it comes and finds a home in the Department of Community Affairs, which, much to my happiness, is a good thing. Maybe not always to staff, but I don't want to be bored. And I can tell you in this role, I am never bored. Never know what exactly we're going to walk into on any given day, what emergency is going on around the state of New Jersey. But it is truly our job because we interface with every New Jersey resident on a daily basis across the state of New Jersey. We intersect in every facet of New Jerseyans' lives daily. So without further ado, I know we wanted to give everybody a couple more minutes to walk in, a little bit of a schlep from parking in a warm day. It's a gorgeous day outside. Hope everybody's had an opportunity to cool down and get settled in. But I'm literally going to jump right in so that way we leave plenty of opportunity for questions and comments going forward. So what does the department cover? As Kaya touched upon most of those, we have one of them, the Division of Local Government Services, which is going to certainly be showcased here today to this group. I still am wearing that hat of Local Government Services Director. It's just under a little bit of a larger hat that I'm also wearing right now. The Division of Local Government Services provides support to every local government across the state of New Jersey. Municipalities, counties, fire districts, authorities. We oversee all of their budgets. We also are the regulatory body. We certify the professionals who serve in these communities. And one of the big things that came across under the Murphy administration was how do we deliver services better at a reduced cost? So this was kind of born out from this concept of how do we drive down property taxes across the state of New Jersey? And there we really born out the idea of the Local Assistance Bureau. And in there is the LEAP program, which is the Local Efficiency Achievement Program that really helps to break down the barriers of entry into shared services. And I'm not going to step on Rick's toes because he's going to deliver most of that later to you. So I will leave that there for right this moment. But the concept really was every time I go into a community and we hear, we don't like how high our taxes are in New Jersey. And the question posed back is, well, what services would you like to see cut? So that way we can bring property taxes down across the state of New Jersey. And without a doubt, it's crickets at that moment because everybody loves the services that they do have in their municipalities. So what we were looking to do is how do we streamline efficiencies, create economies of scale, so that way we can continue to deliver those services at either equal levels or better levels while still driving down costs, whether that was through cost avoidance or through reduced costs because of the shared service. So Local Government Services continues in that vein. Financial Regulations Unit oversees all the budgets. Anytime municipal official, whether that is the CFO or the mayor's having difficulty with their budget, they know who Tina Zapici is. Tina is one of our assistant directors in Local Government Services, and I keep telling her she's not allowed to retire, and lucky for me, she has not put in those retirement papers yet, although I feel like at some point that is happening, and much like many of you in this room, always looking to succession planning, especially in government, is difficult, and I'm going to touch upon that in a little bit too. Codes and standards, very much like what it sounds like. The idea is that they enforce the Uniform Construction Code across the state of New Jersey. We are the only state in the United States that has a true uniform construction code in the sense that what the code is in North Jersey is the same as Central Jersey. It exists. I live there. And South Jersey. So the whole concept is we want to make sure that whatever the building code is anywhere in New Jersey, it's going to be uniform. There are other states that might have adopted a uniform construction code, but it's only applied county by county or municipality by municipality when they have a larger city. Very different here in the state of New Jersey. They don't just do that though. So they're not just the regulatory body. They also have the Office of Regulatory Affairs. So if you're having issues with your code office and you're unsure how to approach it, you can also touch base with our Division of Codes and Standards. They'll send somebody in to either evaluate the office, make sure things are running efficiently, and then it actually is uniform. that the way that permits are being pulled in this town are the same way that they're being pulled in that town. So happy to assist with that. They also do everything from amusement rides, right? So when I first started at the department, that was almost 9 years ago at that juncture. It was under the Christie administration. And when I kept getting inquiries from different legislators asking about things, I'm like, this cannot be here at the Department of Community Affairs. I don't know why they're asking us about this. Lo and behold, I would always be awed that that was another thing that kind of fell under our reign. Amusement park rides, it's true. So whether they are permanent or they are moving as a circus or a carnival through the state of New Jersey, our team not only inspects them, but looks at the plans to see that they actually meet the requirements to be set up here in the state of New Jersey. They also have the Bureau of Housing Inspection, which is tasked with inspecting every multiple dwelling across the state of New Jersey. That's defined as 3 or more units. So that's hotels, that's motels, that is condos, townhouses, multifamilies. As long as it's 3 or more units, we go in and perform those inspections. We worked really closely with the legislature because from the vantage point of our department, we want to reward good behavior and penalize those who aren't adhering to what they're supposed to do under our statutes and regulations. So one of those things was, we've got good landlords across the state of New Jersey. How do we reward them? And how do we penalize the slumlords around the state of New Jersey to make sure that housing is safe and competent for our residents? And one of the things that we looked at was, we have a cyclical inspection. At the time, it was every 5 years, every multiple dwelling would be inspected across the state of New Jersey. What we decided to do was we'll shrink it down to 2 years for those who consistently have issues with their housing stock, and we'll extend it up to 7 years for those who are good actors, so that way they're not paying registration fees to have these inspections done on a frequent basis because they don't have issues. The way that we kind of bridge it all is that complaint-based inspections can happen at any time. Anytime there's an issue that a resident thinks there's something going on or the municipality thinks something's going on, we can perform an inspection as a spot inspection. Housing Community Resources, one of our largest divisions in the Department of Community Affairs. We are the largest housing authority in the state of New Jersey. It's a misconception that everybody thinks that the housing authority, that we are the Division of Housing Community Resources in DCA, oversees all the other housing authorities in the state of New Jersey. We do not. We each report directly to HUD. Now, since we are the largest, we have the most technical assistance. We will often step in and assist a sister agency, but we do not have oversight over them. So if somebody's faltering, we will step in, we will provide the technical assistance, we will provide getting out the vouchers, processing the vouchers for their recipients. And actually, one of the initiatives that we're looking to accomplish with them is how do we get home ownership ready tenants into home ownership opportunities? We're looking at how to kind of bridge that gap, because we all understand that while we subscribe, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment, to the Housing First model, when we're talking about just rental assistance for individuals, that's truly a Band-Aid, a necessary Band-Aid. Do not get me wrong. We want people to have a safe, stable place to lay their head every night so that they can be productive members of society. But when we're looking at this, it's a Band-Aid. It never gets somebody off of step 0 so that their family can really tap into the equity within their homes so that they can help their children with a down payment, or they can help their children go to college. So how can we, again, reward the good behavior by moving those who have been good participants in the program into home ownership? It's also just fiscally prudent. Instead of having somebody on a voucher for a long-term period, that as long as they meet the requirements, they can sit on that voucher, we know now that they are within our program for a set period of time, which is the time period that is their mortgage term. So, and also, like I said, tapping into the equity, they can do that from day one so that they can help their children move forward. So we're kind of ending that cycle, we're breaking that cycle going forward of who's going to need this voucher. I didn't understand this until I became the commissioner, but I was disabused of any kind of Pollyannic notion about what really happens sometimes with our vouchers, that when somebody passes away, their children, if they were in that home, can actually litigate over who gets that voucher going forward. That's not something we want to do. That's not something we want to see. We want to make sure that we can teach people how to fish so they can be successful going forward instead of constantly giving them the fish and not knowing when the end date's going to be. Local planning services. Just like kind of what it sounds like. The idea is that they're providing the technical assistance out there, whether that is for main streets, whether that is for zoning, whether that is going to be for areas in need of redevelopment. They provide that technical assistance to kind of get towns where they want to go. Used to be known as COA, right? I know, almost like a dirty word. But that pretty much went moribund under the Christie administration when they said COA is no longer going to be in existence, and it was done away in perpetuity now in statute through A4 and S50 back in March when that was signed into law. What we kind of saw going forward was how do we repurpose this office that we had and the staff that was there. Fire safety. Fire safety is very much similar to codes and standards in the sense that we wanted to make sure that firefighters who were trained in North Jersey had the same training as South Jersey, and that for Fire Safety 1, Fire Safety 2, and whatever other incrementals they had in their training were going to be uniform. They were setting up our firefighters for success, and that we were setting up our residents for success. God forbid they needed fire service. They also provide some of the technical assistance to kind of make sure that the departments are operating the way that they need to operate, as well as oversee the training across the state. Disaster recovery and mitigation. This used to be the Sandy Recovery Division. Stood up in the wake of Superstorm Sandy. We were really hopeful. Many of those staffers were actually brought in on a temporary basis. We're not civil service protected. The whole mindset was that we were actually going to wean this office down. They were vital at the time, but we thought we could just kind of deal with everything that was going on with Sandy and wean ourselves off of it. That was not meant to be. So we have realized that there are going to be significant storms that are going to hit New Jersey, and that we need to figure out our storm resiliency plan, as well as our disaster recovery plans and assistance that are going out to the municipalities, ergo disaster recovery and mitigation. So now they've administered the IDA funding, they've administered the IRMA funding. We're moving forward on also just elevating homes across the state of New Jersey that are in flood-prone areas, so that we don't have those issues going forward where we're constantly in this revolving door of fixing the same homes that are experiencing flooding events. Office of Information Privacy, this was stood up after Daniel's Law. When a judge's information was obtained by a defendant who she had put away, showed up at her house with a gun, shot her son, shot her husband. Her son passed away. His name was Daniel. That's where the law was born out of. The whole purpose of standing up OIP was so that we could make sure that we are safeguarding the private information of individuals who the legislature says should be covered persons. That means that we make sure that that information is redacted from the state and local government databases, so that somebody cannot access your home information, your personal email, your personal phone number, things along that nature. We've done law enforcement, we've done judges, we've done prosecutors, we've moved into the area of DCPMP, so that's Department of Children and Families, who are also going out there and investigating things to make sure that they are also covered, and the legislature has been making incremental changes in that so that more people are added into the covered persons. I'm not going to keep boring everybody by going into every little detail that we cover in the Department of Community Affairs. But NJRA covers many of our urban centers and kind of revitalizing for economic development as well as housing. The New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency is essentially a state bank. The purpose is to make sure that they can underwrite affordable housing projects around the state of New Jersey. They also have stood up wonderful programs like the down payment assistance, first-time home buyer, as well as first-generation home buyer. And I'll get into this too. One of the things we're trying to consistently do is leverage in state resources. How do we tap into our sister agencies? How do we tap into our own divisions and layer these in as a type of capital stack to make sure that we're actually improving things? Historic Trust, we provide funding to make sure that we are preserving the gems across our state and the history and what that kind of looks like. Urban Enterprise Zone, again, kind of focuses on some of our urban areas around the state of New Jersey to kind of revitalize through various incentives, whether that is through taxes or reduced costs to them. We have a Government Records Council. So that also was just recently revamped in legislation. That's going into effect next month. We have a new council stood up. Their whole premise is to make sure that Oprah laws are being adhered to. They're also a wonderful resource to local governments and making sure that they're doing what they need to do going forward when it comes to Oprah. DCA Programs Book. Can't highlight this enough. This just came online a couple of months ago. The whole idea here is it's an interactive website where you can peruse our programs, you can peruse our products, our grant opportunities. It also gives you the contact information for the staff members who are overseeing those. It gives you the guidelines for them, what the requirements are, and how you would apply for those. It truly is interactive. It's not just a PDF that's online. So you can use search terms, you can kind of play around with it. I encourage you to look at that, whether you have constituents or whether you are from a local government and you want to make sure that you understand what the programs are to help your constituency. Kaya touched upon a little bit of like kind of what our motto is at the department, what our mantra is, what we're trying to really accomplish. And in talking through this, and I really give Kaya a lot of credit, she sat down with me one day and our communications team, and we just started kind of talking through what we wanted to accomplish over the next few years, what our goals were, what our policies were going to look like. And Kaya and the team kind of came up and they kept saying, well, there seems to be 3 overarching themes that just thread throughout every one of the programs and initiatives that we're trying to accomplish. And the first was really using data to drive our decision making. And I don't say that lightly. I think a lot of people rely on that and they kind of say that without really understanding what that looks like. We have the data hub on our website. I would encourage all of you to look at it. It culls all the information for local governments across the state of New Jersey, state programs, costs associated, et cetera. And on there, we've been using that to kind of make sure that, especially going into an economy that maybe wasn't as robust as we saw in the last few years, certainly a lot less federal dollars that are going to be funneling through the state of New Jersey and all across the country. How do we make sure that we are putting our money where our programs are making the greatest impact so that we can solidify those programs going forward and maybe pivot away from some of the less successful ones? I'll give you an example. So I like examples that I understand that people are actually doing what they say that they're doing. When we were taking this, we looked at homelessness initiatives. And we stood up the Office of Homelessness Prevention and the Office of Eviction Prevention in the wake of COVID. One of the things that we looked at was, how do we assess what programs we have to avoid homelessness or get people from actually upstream before they enter into homelessness, to make sure that the biggest indicator, actually, as a sidebar for homelessness, is being homeless as a child. So we wanted to capture people upstream before they actually entered into homelessness, so that we were also going to stem off the tide of people entering into homelessness in the future. So what we looked at was, and I give Assistant Commissioner Janelle Winter a lot of credit for this, she always jokes, she's like, we don't have a fix your car program in this state, but it would be so much cheaper if we could do that, because if somebody has a flat tire and they can't afford their rent that month and to also fix their flat tire, and that's the difference between homelessness or not and entering into eviction, she said that would be so much better. So we looked at with some of our flexible programming, and we found out that on average, to help people in those types of situations, whether that was like a medical bill or a car repair, it costs about a couple $100s on average. It costs $24,000 on average once somebody actually enters into the eviction process. So if we can capture them ahead of time, we are certainly saving ourselves money. And that's not including the costs of the courts going through eviction, the landlords actually going through the eviction process, all of that tangentially. And then we used the data and we said, can we double check, where do these people stand 6-8 months later? Did the money actually work? Or did we just prolong the inevitable by delaying this from happening by a month or two? And the data has shown, as long as we have it so far, that it was over 90% of people were still stably housed with that couple $100 program versus what it costs to us over a 2-year period, which is the average of $24,000 to get people back into stable housing. So that's kind of what we mean by using data to kind of drive our decision making. Stakeholder engagement and partnership. That's exactly why we're here today. We want to, one, illustrate the programs that we have available and how we can be of service, but we also want to make sure that we are listening to our stakeholders, listening to our constituency, which every local government across the state of New Jersey is part of. We want to hear from those who participate in our programs, what works, what doesn't work. And let me be very clear on that. I am way open to communication. I am an open door, open policy, always want to hear from people. But one of the things that I always charge my staff with doing, and which I challenge everybody every time I engage with them, is don't just come with the problems, also come with the solutions. So it's really easy for us all to identify what the problems are. It's much more complicated for us to figure out the solution going forward. I'm not asking for it to be perfect. I'm asking for us to come together and figure out what that solution looks like, and then we can tweak it. Nothing is written in stone. How do we pivot? How do we change it to make sure that it's actually helping the residents? Because I don't want to take the money that the legislature gives us for programs and just say, I got it out the door. I did my job. That's only, in my vantage point, half my job. My job is, yes, to execute the programs that the legislature gives me, but it's much more important that we make sure that we're actually impacting the lives of our residents in a positive way. And that goes back to teaching them to fish instead of just giving them the fish. I don't want to just give out the money. I want to make sure that we're actually changing the way that we approach things going forward. Solutions-focused perspective in managing challenges. So that goes back to this whole idea of, we can look at everything as just a problem, but we're trying to look at this as an opportunity to make things better for our residents. Perfect example of how I can kind of talk about this is with local planning services and local government services. When I was solely wearing the hat of local government services director, I said to myself, we have transitional aid municipalities who are within our purview. They are here in the Local Assistance Bureau under local government services. It's a voluntary program. Essentially, if they're fiscally distressed, significantly fiscally distressed, they can come to us, apply for funding, but it comes along with a lot of strings. And that's they're going to have a technical assistant, they're going to have a monitor, they're going to have to get their waivers approved for hiring, promotions, etc. We're going to oversee their budget. We're going to help build their capacity back up so they can be self-sufficient going forward. The problem is many of these municipalities don't have that ability to build up their own capacity. So how do we do that? We all know that the only way we're going to bring more money to these municipalities is through two things. We're either going to increase taxes or we're going to bring in new rateables. Or the state or federal government's going to give you more money, but that's not looking so promising these days. So if we could figure out how to do the latter, which is economic development, because we don't want to drive out small businesses by just increasing taxes in these places, why don't we rely on local planning services to help them develop their plans for economic development in these municipalities? We'll work with the elected officials. We'll sit down with them and say, what neighborhood's kind of on the precipice that just needs a little extra assistance? Maybe we can really bring in economic development to these areas. And what we did was we said we would focus on certain neighborhoods and then we would layer in resources. First, we started with the department. We would look at our own grants, our own community services block grants, our own Main Street programs, our own funds through HMFA. Then we would start layering it in with grants from DEP for parks, DOT for road paving. We piloted it in two municipalities so far. Right now it's in Trenton and it's in Camden. We're going to start evaluating this to see how we're moving the needle. The goal is to show investors that we are investing in infrastructure in these communities for them to then come there and see the ripple effect that's going on. So instead of DOT going and paving in the northward, we're focused on this neighborhood in the southward. Come here. HMFA, when we're talking about tax credits, maybe give a preference to the southward since that's where we're focusing on. Same thing with DEP. Let's give that grant over to somebody in the southward, or at least give them a preferential point on that so that way we can really capital stack layered in so that we are compounding our investment into a community instead of watering it down by just saying, well, I gave a grant over here and I gave a grant over there, but we're not actually concentrating what that looks like. So our priorities. So one of the things that our department has always kind of honed in on is housing first. It's just the model that if you don't have a safe, stable place to call home, how are you going to be a functioning member of society, right? If my kids don't have a place to sleep, how are they going to be well rested so they can function in school? If I don't have a place to shower, how am I going to go to work? If I don't have a place to keep my medication, how am I going to treat my medical condition? So that's kind of the mantra that comes out of DCA. It's like I've done this once or twice. I know what slide comes next. It's okay. Driving policies and programs through data. Kind of like what I talked about, right? We're really trying to make sure that we are using the data to drive our decisions. Not just do we want the data, and I know sometimes we say like, well, you need that gut check, you need that intuition of somebody who's had the experience before, and that's where we kind of come back into our stakeholders. What's working in your communities and what's not. I'm the last person who's going to come into a community and say, I know what your community needs more than you do. You're the elected officials, you're the ones working in those communities. It's a partnership that we need to kind of work on going forward. Building the public sector workforce. So this goes back into when I was saying, we had some issues in backfilling positions. We started realizing that there weren't enough CMFOs to go around the state of New Jersey, which are certified municipal finance officers. There weren't enough CCFOs going around for the counties. What do we do in these spaces? In January 2023, I launched an internship program at the department. The goal was we've been going around to every university. We haven't hit every single one across the state yet, but we are certainly making our way through them. We are engaging with them to figure out how do we create the pipeline of students who should be or will want to enter into government work and actually funnel them into those positions. 9 times out of 10, actually it's more like 9.999 times out of 10 that I've seen in my experience, none of our opportunities in state or local government are actually being portrayed in the universities and colleges. Every public accounting student that we talked to said to me, I had no idea that any of these opportunities existed, and I didn't know what to do with that. We piloted it with the CFOs, with the accounting students. What we said was, let's rotate them through. So we broke our internship up into 3 components. The first component was they'd be with us at the state. We wanted them to see the back end work of what financial regulations does, how they look at a budget once it comes in from a municipality. Then we send them to a local government, whether that's a municipality or a county, who, in our estimation, is operating efficiently and well. And we want them to see what actually goes into creating that budget. What does that work look like? And then the third component of that was we put them with a local finance board so they can see what the private side does, who provides the services to the local governments in driving forward what their financial picture is going to look like, how they advise them on what initiatives they're going to do financially. It's been highly successful. We actually just got an email today from one of our first ever intern and telling us like what he's doing and how he's working. He started as a freshman or sophomore. He's going into his senior year. Really exciting. It kind of like renewed my vigor a little bit. I really like dealing with the kids because they're still, you know, I won't use the other word, but they're still filled with vinegar and they like want to get out there and they want to like really drive things home. And so it's great to kind of see what that looks like. We're now expanding that into business administration, clerks, etc. We're partnering with the League of Municipalities. We're actually going to feature an event at the League of Municipalities with them. We're going to be bringing down a lot of the students and the interns, not for the whole League of Municipalities and certainly not for the after hours events, but just for them to get to see exactly what it looks like from our perspective and what these opportunities can be. And then we've been working with the universities to make sure that their curriculum matches what the requirements are for them to sit for a certification or a licensure. So that way, when they get out of school, they can start working immediately instead of saying to themselves, great, now I need to sit for another 2 or 3 classes and I got to commute to only Rutgers offers that in these locations around the state. And how does that work for me? So we're trying to kind of streamline these processes. If anybody's interested in participating in the internship program, helping us to funnel, or just literally taking our playbook and implementing it yourselves, we've been also helping municipalities all around the state do that. We pay our interns. We're also moving to figure out how they can also get credit for doing that. Many of the universities will allow them to do that as well. So that's us trying to come up with creative solutions to the issues, making sure that we're having those open lines of communication with the educational institutions around the state of New Jersey who are going to create the pipeline for us to make sure that we have the professionals we need in our local governments and the state. I think that's it. So I'm done. So see, I told you I can talk fast. I can talk a lot. Thank you for your patience. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I will stick around for a bit so that we can answer questions at the end. And Kai, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Commissioner. So before we get into shared services, which is why we are here today, I wanted to make sure that we just gave a quick highlight because this initiative and this work didn't just kind of come from the folks in this space today. It really is an administration priority. So we'd also like to show first, before we get our content experts up here, a video from Governor Murphy talking a bit about the shared services work.
Hey everybody, Governor Phil Murphy here. Back in 2018, our administration launched the Shared Services Initiative to help lower costs for our state's families while also improving the delivery of vital public services throughout the Garden State. In the years since then, we have made tremendous progress in promoting shared services, from trash collection to emergency response to public education and beyond. And with these efforts, we have helped increase public safety and simply made life easier for the people of New Jersey. Of course, the success we have seen thus far is in no small part thanks to the leadership of the Department of Community Affairs, Commissioner Jacquelyn Suárez, as well as former mayors Platt and Glatt, who have helped lead this initiative from the very beginning. With their help, over the past 6.5 years, the DCA has awarded more than $18 million to municipalities across New Jersey to support new shared service agreements and to implement them as smoothly and efficiently as possible. These investments have been essential to ensuring that New Jersey remains the best place to live, work, and raise a family in these United States. And we are just getting started. So if you're interested in learning more about the benefits that shared services can bring to your community, I encourage you to check out all of the wonderful new resources that Commissioner Suárez and her team at the DCA have pulled together, along with Nick and Jordan. There are a number of grants available to cities and towns up and down the Garden State, so we can continue lowering costs for our families while at the same time improving the delivery of public services. Thank you all for everything you do on behalf of our municipalities, as well as New Jersey's families. God bless each and every one of you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. I also wanted to kind of share as well. It's exciting news, a bit hot off the presses, but we are excited to share. We do have an annual conference, Governor's Conference on Housing and Economic Development. We're pleased to share that the governor will be our keynote this year. So if you want to be able to continue this conversation, and I think shared services is very apropos as we talk about economic development, revitalization, and housing. These all kind of marry very well. It's a great conference to attend. We're going to have some great subject matter experts, but please join us. This will be on September 17th and 18th. More questions, come see myself, the rest of the team at the back. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our content experts, the folks you want to hear from today, besides Commissioner, of course. I want to make sure to give a warm introduction to our first of three content experts, Richardella, DCA's Bureau Chief for the Division of Local Government Services. And he is going to be delving into the topic of shared services, stem to stern, and will be available at the end of the program for any questions and to really listen to your input, your feedback, your perspectives. Rick was appointed to the position of Bureau Chief of the State of New Jersey Division of Local Government Services in February 2019. Rick was the Township of Maplewood Chief of Police for 7 years. He was also the public safety consultant and subject matter expert for the International City County Management Association in Washington, D.C. As Bureau Chief, Rick oversees the Local Assistance Bureau, as we call it, the lab. Rick also assisted the governor's office with the state oversight of Atlantic City, the implementation of shared police services for the County of Camden Metro Police Department with the borough of Lake Como Belmar, the City of Woodbury and the borough of Woodbury Heights Police Shared Services, and the dissolution of the South Harrison Police with Woolwich, taking over the Police and Municipal Court Services for South Harrison with a shared service structure. Rick has over 40 years of public safety experience. He continues to be an asset to not just the department, the division, but also our local partners. Rick, the podium is yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. This is the great opportunity for me to speak about the program. I want to introduce, before we get into the nuts and bolts, the two gentlemen who have been my left and right arm with regard to the shared services, the Czars that were appointed by the governor, Jordan Glatt and Nick Platt, as you heard that the governor spoke about today. First gentleman is Jordan, who is vice president of special assistant at one of the colleges. The item that impressed me the most was that Jordan was a mayor for 8 years, did many, many shared services in his community of Summit. And one of the things that he brought to me when we were speaking about shared services was when he first started the program, he took a lot of heat. A lot of people jumping in his face. This is not going to work. But you know, he had the courage to stick it out. And it was successful. And he got cost savings. But you know what he told me? Nobody ever came back to him 2 years later and said, you know what, that worked great. That was a great program you came up with, Jordan. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Jordan to say a few words to the group.
So let me just start off as a mayor and going through this. I know shared services are hard. I mean, let's face it, it takes political risk to get them done. But there are a few things we've learned. You know what? I rather hold the mic because I tend to pace when I talk. And I think that comes when you're doing shared services. It's best to keep moving. But shared services are really hard. And nobody's against it, though, when you talk about it as a shared service, right? Everybody's, yeah, we should do that. We should do more of that. But when you get to the actual shared service is when the constituents come out to to prevent that change or save what you're trying to change. But everybody tells you it'll make sense. And what I was referring to with Rick, the best shared services, nobody says great job when you're all done, but the best shared services are the ones that nobody notices that there's been a change once you are done. right? So that means that everything's running just as well as it was before, yet you're doing it more efficiently. The other thing I ask you to keep in mind is shared services isn't all about just saving money. It's delivering services more efficiently. And in a lot of cases, we've had police departments, believe it or not, that want to join with other police departments. So if you have, I see we have an officer in town, I'm afraid, and he's armed, so I got to be careful here. But if you have a police department with 8 officers, and that's it, there's the training, they don't get the same training, the ability to be promoted up and to create more responsibility is not there. But if you become a bigger department, there's more opportunity for the individual officers. So you got to think about shared services, not just the negatives of them, but there's a lot of positives beyond just saving money. And everybody talks about, and we were talking about this earlier, that shared services are going to reduce taxes. So I've been around government long enough to know that taxes don't tend to come down even when you do a shared service. Let's be honest, okay? But what they do is allow you to free up dollars for maybe some of your wish projects, so without raising taxes. There's a tendency in government when there's money there for you, you spend it, right? I mean, let's say it the way it is. So I just want to change your perspective of some of the, I almost call them the myths of shared services. We went through, I'll use one example. We merged South Orange and Maplewoods fire departments, and it was a war. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Nick still cringes. But I think when you get through the whole thing, you'll find what made that successful is 2 words: trust and communication. Right? So in terms of communication, in our first meeting with the union, which again was brutal, okay, I don't want to sugarcoat this at all, but I do want to tell you, we made a commitment that we would not meet or decide anything without them being in the room. All right? There's so many times there is, this feeling of the backroom deal, you've already decided, and we really tried to live by that, and that helped us through. And the other piece is communication. And that's just not with the unions and the employees, but it's also with the community. We held town halls. The mayors were very active in getting out and talking to their community, so there was no surprises. And in that case, we had firemen knocking on doors during an election, supporting the mayor's opponent, saying this is going to be a safety issue and so forth. But because the town went out and also communicated with the residents in an open way, the mayor not only won the election, but it was a landslide. So I know we all have a tendency when we're thinking about something like this to kind of go internal first. And I beg of you, for shared services, just be out there, be transparent with the stakeholders. And I've said this 1,000 times before. We have a lot of tools I think Nick and I know Rick will talk about in our toolbox for you. We have money. We have a great team of experts. We will do the studies. You don't have to pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars. The state will do the studies for free. We have tons of grant money. We have a lot of tools, but the one tool we don't have in our toolbox that only you can do, and that is courage. And shared services takes courage as an elected official. So thank you for being here. We're here all afternoon. Any questions? And thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Now that we have the microphone in our hand, and we'll work better. Next gentleman I'd like to call up. Oh, sorry, we don't have any time for you, Nick. Nick Platt from the Morris County area, a mayor. He has some interesting stories to talk about when he proposed some shared services. He's been involved with us in the program. He's been beating the bushes for more money, more money, more money. So without further ado, Mr. Platt.
Thank you. There's not much I can add to what Jordan said, but I remember that we were appointed in 2018, and we both drove back from East Rutherford together, and we were wondering how was the governor spelling the name Czar, because it was his Czar program. And at the right after the event, we both said, you know, history has not been kind to Czars. They always die painfully. And it was a little bit of that, but we started with $47,000. And I have to remind the commissioner of something, because we were filming a segment in her office 2 weeks ago, and there was something a story that came up, and it was when we were trying to get more money, and the commissioner interceded with the governor's office, and again, 47,000 wasn't very much, and we were looking for more grants. And she was speaking with someone, and I remembered this afternoon who it was, and it's our new temporary U.S. Senator, George Helmy, who said to the commissioner, "Tell them to stop whining." So so that when I look at the new U.S. Senator, I'm going to remember that he called us a whiner. He was actually calling Jordan a whiner, but by association, I get included in that. As Rick pointed out, when I was the mayor of Harding, I famously said one night, you know, what difference does it make what decal is on the car that pulls you over at night? And what I was looking at is the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, where, I'm in Harding, there's Madison, Chatham Borough, and Mars Township. And, you know, they're all patrolling, and we're just all separated by a single border. And that did not go over very well. And we all know when we took this job on that the big three, it's police, fire, and schools. And those were the ones that we wanted to tackle first, but the ones that we have been least successful with, as Jordan pointed out, Maplewood and South Orange. But we do little things. I mean, we're looking at 911 dispatch, and we've had some success. But I think at this point, we keep on threatening to quit all the time. But now that we're in the final, playing the back nine, that I think we're going to see this thing all the way through to the next governor. So thank you.
Thanks, Nick. By the way, they have a heavy salary. They make $1 a year, and they're up to 57 cents already this year. So one of the things that I like to talk about with the shared services is not only do we do shared services and cost savings, but we want to enhance the service when we put it together. We want to create some efficiencies, generate cost savings, accomplish capital improvements, which you'll see a lot of that with the LEAP grants that we have, and of course, provide some property tax savings. Shared service benefits in our program this year. Since the inception of the program, we have over 3,400 shared services on file, and we have a cost savings of $270 million. $103 million of it was from the Essex and Union counties shared jail. They saved $103 million by going into the jail program, which you'll see later on. It's a hell of an accomplishment. The grants, the local efficiency grant that the commissioner talked about earlier, the LEAP program, we have 3: challenge, implementation, and the county coordinator program that we're going to go over very quickly in the next couple of slides. The LEAP grant, we can give you up to $150,000. Think outside the box. Come up with a program. We have somebody in the audience today from Bergen County who thought about something outside the box. It came up with a medical examiner's office for 3 counties. They did this study, and the thing is going to get off the ground shortly. Unbelievable. Next.
Hi, my name is David Mateen. I'm Assistant County Counsel for Bergen County, Office of County Counsel. In 2020, we applied for a LEAP Challenge grant to get funding to see if it would be feasible to combine the medical examiner's office with Bergen, Hudson, and Passaic County, and it kind of fell through the cracks at some point. The DCA was so accommodating by giving us extensions and making sure we have the resources we need. We finally finished the study at the end of last year, and we are in the process of finalizing the details to enter into a shared service agreement. What's amazing about the DCA is that there's money available to see if something's feasible. And if it's not feasible, hey, nothing lost. But if it is feasible, we'll also give you money to support that and to help us bring things to a conclusion. And we're thankful for the DCA for giving us that opportunity. And we think it's going to be beneficial to all of us.
By the way, the lady and gentleman that are here today filming are the individuals who put all of these videos together for us today. So let's give them a round of applause. Done a great job. The LEAP program, we can give you up to $400,000 with regard to this program. You can use it for technology, equipment, startup costs, rebranding. When we did the South Orange Maplewood Fire Department, we did a rebranding on badges, signage on the side of the apparatus, uniforms, equipment and vehicles. You need a startup cost for vehicles, we can help you out with that. Professional services, rent for facilities, and of course the payroll system. Just some of the examples of what we gave out last year. The ones that I'm really impressed with, in Monmouth County, the commissioner and I met with the sheriff, who's doing a county-wide EMS program. He's going to take over the whole county and do EMS down there. Not only is he doing the EMS program, he's also doing dispatch. So he's got Shrewsbury and Allenhurst doing the dispatch program. Why not have the county do your dispatch? You're paying for it anyway in your taxes. Why pay for it twice? The other item that we came up with, as you know, Bergen County has been very, very forward with regard to some of the shared services. And they're dispatching for East Newark and Harrison. Here's 72 towns up in Bergen County, and they're dispatching for Hudson County. So everybody in this room knows you can dispatch any place. When you go out to LA and you talk to Los Angeles County, there are dispatch centers like 42 miles away from the police department. Person calls in a call, hey, we're in pursuit of a stolen car. Okay, very good, thank you. 42 miles away. You don't have to be like in the same building. It really works out well.
Frank Panucci, I'm the town administrator for the Point Pleasant Borough and Bayhead. We went out and got a street sweeper, split in half between two towns, win-win. Because we did that, other towns in Ocean County started doing the same thing. All of this is an icebreaker for towns. Now everybody's more comfortable talking about it. They saw the success of this one piece of equipment that snowballed into bigger conversations. These shared services are an inevitability in the state of New Jersey because that's the only way these services are going to continue on. The commissioner and her staff have made this incredibly easy process. So if you're understaffed like I am, where I have to do everything myself, or you have a great deal of staff for a bigger city, the staff here at DCA has made the whole process from start to finish easy. And then when the process is finished, you keep bringing us back to build on that success for other towns and for us as well.
What's interesting about that shared service is my team went out and we did what they call the barrier island all along Ocean County. I live in Toms River. So we wanted to, a lot of the towns were asking us for help. And while we were there talking to them about these programs, Toms River was engaging with Island Heights. They were sitting next to each other and they started to pick up the trash that day and they entered into a shared service agreement. I mean, some of the stuff is just amazing. And by the way, I did go to Point Pleasant to talk to that BA. It was nice. He's in Bayhead and Point Pleasant. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. It's my day at work. County coordinators. One of the things that we like to talk about is trying to get the county coordinators to be on board. Guess what we don't have in Morris County? We need a Morris County shared service coordinator. The commissioner's allowed up to $75,000 for the position. The only thing you have to do is pay for their health care or fringe. If you hire a retired police officer or a firefighter, usually they already have their health care and you only end up paying the $75,000. The people that are involved in it in police and fire or even DPW, they know about shared services, so they're good candidates. Next. So this is what we have so far on file. We have Atlantic County, Bergen, Hudson, Monmouth, Passaic, Somerset, and Union. And by the way, I think two of our individuals are here today.
Shared Service Coordinator for Atlantic County Government. I'd like to encourage all the counties to hire a fellowship or coordinator for shared service. There's a multitude of responsibilities in county government, but to have one person focusing on shared services is very worthwhile. The fellowship program puts us in contact with each other. We have monthly coordinator calls that we discuss and come up with ideas collectively. The DCA, Richardella, Eileen Brennan, Lorianne Doyle is very receptive. 2 days ago we had a problem with our application for the fellowship, and I had to call her to walk me through what we needed to do to be compliant, and she did. And yesterday she called back just to follow up to make sure that we were okay. So the fellowship program, for very little cost to the county, I find it extremely beneficial.
So under the LEAP program, we've given out 120 LEAP grants applications that we received, and we've given out, as the governor said, over $18 million in funding with regard to that. One of the things that I wanted to mention was when we started this program with the commissioner, we had 5 individuals working for us in 2019. We have 19 skill set professionals on staff. As the commissioner said, we can go out and do no-cost studies at any time to help any of the municipalities out. So some of the successful shared stories, services that we have, we were in Cape May on dispatch, Riverdale. I already told you about Essex and Union County, the borough of Moonachie, Morris County Detention Center with Hudson and the town of Hanover, and also Long Beach and Barnegat. And we're still going with some of these successful stories that we have. The inmate program that I talked about earlier with Hudson, we also have Sussex and Morris, Hunterdon, Warren, Essex, Union, Bergen, Passaic, and I think Salem, Gloucester, and Cumberland County are going to be joining also. Ever since the new bail program went into effect, and ISIS is not putting prisoners in local county lockups, the facilities are going unmanned. In fact, when we were in Essex and Union, they had 278 employees for 75 prisoners. So that's one of the reasons why they moved on. So we're very big on joint and shared courts. Just a little bit, as you can see what's going on around the state that we're involved. And the great thing about the shared courts is the New Jersey Office of Administrative Courts, Acting Judge Grant is the one who actually is pushing this with us. So we just have to call him, tell him that we're going into a municipality, and he helps us out. He sends an AOC vicinage manager over to help us out with them. Very, very successful program. The one we wear on our sleeves is a centralized court down in Atlantic County. In fact, I was down to visit with them and Judge Blee yesterday with regard to the 10 municipalities as we're trying to get more and more towns involved. Now we're going to start with prosecutors. We're going to have the prosecutor's office prosecuting the cases, so we don't need prosecutors from the municipalities to prosecute the cases. This year, we have $6 million to give out. So everybody should take advantage of the LEAP application. It'll be coming out in the fall. And it's a well-worth program, as you can see with some of the programs and some of the things that we've given out.
Adam Lerner, Chief Executive Officer of the South Essex Fire Department. We were 2 municipalities, the Township of Maplewood and the Township of South Orange, and we realized that both of our communities could provide better service if we joined together. We're not only providing better fire service to our residents, but created a safer environment for the firemen that we had working for us. Working with DCA has been very helpful. They were fantastic in saying, here's someone at pensions that you need to speak with. Here's someone at civil service that you can speak with. This is the perk process that we're going to be going through and all that kind of stuff. being able to utilize those connections and help us work with the right people to get things done it's immeasurable. It would not have gone the way it went without their help, and so that was important.
One of the other programs that the governor's wearing on his sleeve is the school regionalization. Everybody knows we're having problems with the school formulas today, and I think many of the school districts can combine into a shared service program. So we are actually out there pounding the pavement to get these school regionalizations on board. We've had 4 this year, and we're hoping to get more on board. So anybody in this room that wants any help with the school regionalization, we can help you out with that. Just some of the ones we got going on was Monmouth County, Gloucester, and Warren County that are active right now. Camden County, Somerset and Morris counties we're working with, and Ocean County.
My name is
Centralized.
Tony Vaz. I'm the mayor of Seaside Heights. During the storm of 2012, Sandy destroyed a great deal of properties, so we became part of the state transitional aid program. Through that relationship with the Department of Community Affairs, this knowledge about shared services came up, and we started thinking of initiatives that we could investigate. And the first one was street sweeper with our neighboring community, Seaside Park. Then we did the consolidation grant for a regionalization study of our local elementary school being part of a regional school district, and that grant was approved. We have a year-round residency, then we have the part-time residents who have secondary homes in Seaside Heights. So this works out for everybody with shared services. This does work, and we become more efficient.
Thank you. Any questions? Everybody's ready? Yes, sir.
Testing. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Judith.
I'd like to hear from you on what you would recommend if we were trying to engage with our neighboring municipalities, town officials, mayors, councils, who are very reluctant to enter into any sort of shared service agreement because, to your point earlier, you need courage, okay? I'm trying to figure out what we can do to entice officials to drop that mentality of it's our fiefdom, we don't want to touch it, and how we get them to the table. Any suggestions?
Yes. We can do meet and greets with both municipalities in one room and we talk about it. Usually it's the mayor, the BA from both towns, and one member of each members of the governing body. We have to be cautious with the sunshine law with regard to meeting everybody. But usually we have a representative, which includes the mayor, the BA, and maybe the CFO of each town. But I think Jordan wants to chime in on some of that.
I would start small. I mean, you actually heard it in the last clip. Sometimes sharing something as silly as a street sweeper starts a conversation. You start building trust between the governor, and they build from one shared service to the next. So don't try and eat. How do you eat an elephant, right? Bite by bite. Start very small, build trust with each other, and grow from there.
So getting back to the, I guess you call them meet and greets. Okay, would I contact somebody within the division for that?
Right up there? Like that's all the contact information for shared services?
Do you have a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Or is that be
And we can
available?
also share that, but
Thank you. Oh, I'm curious, why does Morris County have a shared service coordinator?
they just didn't apply.
I'm sorry?
They just didn't apply. So we're working with Ocean County right now and actually getting that accomplished. The only other thing that I will suggest is sometimes necessity is also the mother of invention when it comes to shared services. So the reason we have so many shared courts right now is because in the wake of COVID, nobody was issuing tickets. There was nothing funneling through the local courts. So suddenly towns were saying, I've got employees, I've got buildings I need to maintain, I've got no revenue coming in from these tickets to support that staff. So I'm gonna look to shared services. So sometimes it's also, I totally agree that you start off small because it's a domino effect, but then you also kind of take that and sometimes there's just the right opportunity For example, many of our police shared services occurred when a police chief was ready to retire. And so suddenly 2 municipalities who have been kicking the tires on maybe doing it, now's the time. And I can't stress enough too, just having the open lines of communication. I also am a firm believer in having the data to back it up. So if you're doing it for cost savings or improved efficiencies of services that you're going to deliver, I would also encourage you to have that data at the outset as soon as you're going to have those conversations. When my town was going to enter into shared EMS, we did it with 4 municipalities in total. Our local volunteers, and it was necessity again. The response times weren't great during normal business hours because our volunteers were at work. So what we started doing was, if we can have some paid individuals and then also use our volunteers, that would be a way to still keep the volunteers, but also make sure that we're delivering the services that are necessary for life-saving measures for our residents. What our town did was we got out ahead of it, sent a letter to everybody saying what the response times are currently, what they're going to be under the new plan, how this is going to be helpful, the cost savings to be realized, that this is not going to increase taxes. So when some of those volunteers were a little disgruntled at some of what they perceived was going to be a problem, which ended up not coming to fruition, when they sent out their letters, we already armed our residents with the knowledge to kind of show the other side to that story, and they can make a decision point on their own with that. So I think every circumstance is going to be a little different, which is why I'm happy to sit down with you about what it is that your town might be looking to do.
Any other questions? No? Yes, sir.
I'm from a town from Paramus. We have shared services with probably 40 other towns already, between mechanical, street sweeping, vegetative waste pickup. Does this program help out what we already have started?
To keep this moving.
Has to be a new program.
But can I just add to that? So while it can't be like existing, if you have town A and town B who already have an existing shared service, if you get town C to join in, you can apply for the grant.
Okay.
So one of the things that we were encouraging, especially when we were going to have county-wide or regional EMS, was you're not going to bring on everybody in one fell swoop. So get 1 or 2 or 3 towns together, figure out the process, what that's going to look like, apply for the grant this year. As soon as the next fiscal year comes in, get your next couple of towns ready to go so you can maximize what you can apply for the grant, but continuing to build your shared service. Okay. So that is something that I would suggest.
That's exactly what's going on in That's what's going on in Monmouth County right now. The sheriff took on, I think, 3 or 4 fire districts this year when the commissioner and I spoke with him. And then in this fiscal year, he's going to do another 3 or 4. And then next year, he's going to apply again. And every time he applies, he can get up to $400,000. And let's face it, ambulances cost $350,000 to $400,000. But he's providing the service that they're talking about. And by the way, the gentleman who did the EMS program in the commissioner's town is one of my 19 experts that's on staff. So whenever somebody asks for help, we have somebody we could send out there right away. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever, could you have an expert come look at an existing shared service just to evaluate it? I remember you saying at a program I was at years ago, it's not a shared service if one town is making money on it, right? It should be good for everyone. And I'm not sure if the one that we're in is operating like a real shared service. So could you have somebody come look, just analyze it?
We can have, I'll give you my card, you contact me, and then we'll send somebody up and we'll talk about what kind of shared service you're doing, okay?
Any other questions?
Anybody else? We're good?
That means we're going to have lots of applications. That's what I'm taking from everybody. Like, silence just means that you guys know what you're doing, and I'm going to get a lot of applications in the next couple of months. One thing I will highlight is most of our grants, especially the implementation grant, we're now moved it to a rolling admission, right? So we didn't want to have to make everybody wait to implement a shared service. So now if you're interested in doing it, the sooner you do it, the better, because we're going to start evaluating them right after the fiscal year. So that way we can allow people to start entering into the shared services immediately instead of waiting for a specific time period. So again, always welcome the feedback. That was a feedback point that we received from people. They didn't want to wait. Sometimes you strike while the iron's hot with shared services. You have the right elected officials in place. You have everything's kind of coalesced around the right opportunity, and you want to strike while the iron is hot. So we want to be able to facilitate that. Yeah.
I'll get back to the question about the county coordinator. I think that's the title that
Yes.
that was used. Okay, what are the towns in Morris County losing out on anything by the county not having one of those coordinators? Are
So
we
I
close to
wouldn't-
getting one, or what? What needs to be done maybe to?
You're not losing out in the sense of funding. The thing that, from our estimation, that you're losing out on is when you have one person who's especially integrated into the county, who understands the county politics, who understands how the municipalities interact with each other. They have a good gut check already on what's going to be possible. Where people are already leaning towards like, these two are right for a shared service. It's also helpful too because we've created a playbook of sorts, right? We want people to be able to take the shared services that have been implemented around the state instead of recreating the wheel and just implement them. That's also what the shared service coordinators do. So they will actually have, if a town calls up and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, they have something ready to send to them that can just be tweaked. So you're kind of losing out on the technical assistance as well as the political know-how of what needs to get done around that county. And I can't stress enough that I think everybody understands what we've been talking about here, which is communication. So having conversations with the county commissioners, having conversations to them when they go visit the municipalities and they have their round tables, having that conversation about this resource exists and we should be taking advantage of it. Sussex County had me come up, I don't know,
September
6
last
months.
year.
Yeah, so about almost a year ago at this juncture, and talk to all of their mayors who participated in that commissioners meeting. Ocean County does it. They invite me to speak to all of their mayors. They have a mayors association, and they have me come talk about shared services. And every single time that we've met with them, we've immediately gotten applications for shared services because it's just not top of mind. They're responding to constituents on, I need to pave this road, I need to meet this deliverable, I need to do whatever it is. So it's the county coordinator who gets to kind of do all that other work for them.
I'm just surprised that you don't have that in Morris. So whoever would that start with, the county commissioners, if they were looking at?
Yes, or like whoever their administrator is for the county would be a good person to start with.
Thank you.
Yep.
And we provide training. In fact, the training this year is going to be October 3rd and October 10th. We bring in all the shared service coordinators from the whole state. We sit down with them, we go over it, and then we give them actual training with regard to it. And then they start this camaraderie amongst themselves. In fact, Bergen County and Hudson County's shared service coordinators are here today. They came up for our program.
Raise your hands. There we go. Yay.
What happens is they go out to, as the county official, they go out and they visit all the municipalities and go to a council meeting. And they say, listen, I'm the shared service coordinator. You got to sell it. You're like a car salesman. You're going out there, you want undercoating, you want whatever you want. And then you talk to them about shared service and what's available to them. They have a pool of all the shared services in the whole state that they can talk about. It's very interesting watching some of these coordinators. And you saw the one from Atlantic County who helped with the centralized court. I mean, you should have one up here. All 21 counties should have them. Anything else? I know it's hot. We've been here a while. Thank you.
Again, thanks so much to everybody. This is our final stop of the series. Staff will be hanging out for a bit. Any questions you have, please come see us. We appreciate the hosting by Fairleigh Dickinson University. Thank you for joining. Take care. Have a good day.